We've got the wonderful team of Andhadhun here with us. I want to just very quickly remind you of just the beauty and the the incredible nature of Andhadhun, one of our favorite films from last year. I'm going to invite the director Sriram Raghavan and of course the gorgeous Tabu, leading lady of Andhadhun. To start with, many congratulations. And we're so happy that you were in Melbourne when this happened.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like lucky for us. Good we are here.
What were you doing? Tell us exactly. Do you know the moment that you found out?
I was waiting for Bulbul Can Sing to start, and I was like, okay, this time I'll watch it for sure. No, I missed it twice.
It's just not destined.
Yeah.
Tabu, who told you?
Yeah, so I just came back from shopping, and I was
always a good sign.
As usual. And I was packing my bags thinking, oh, I'm going back tomorrow and all that. And I came out and I just looked at my phone and there was a message from Hindustan Times. And it said, Andhadhun got the National Award for the best film. And I just sat down and I just read it 2 or 3 times, And I called, I said, is it true? So he's like very excited and all. And the first thing I did was to call Sriram. And Sriram did not know. Like, what? He couldn't understand what I was saying. And I was...
Phone wasn't silent.
He was in that screening. And I was like, Sriram, we got the best film national award. What? And I was so emotional. And then, then he made his calls. And then I did a few interviews. And I just sat on the sofa for a long time. And I just tried to absorb the bigness of it. And really so happy and, overwhelmed. And really so happy.
So now between you all, this team Andhadhun has several national awards. Tabu is herself, she brings the weight of 2 national awards, the gravitas of 2 national awards herself. So that's many national awards. Many congratulations. But, how do you look, if I had to ask you now that it's been almost
a year
since the film came out, what's the one enduring memory of making Andhadhun?
Oh, there must be many, but so I can't really point out one. Tell you answer, I'll think.
Like Sriram said, so many. But if I put them all together and describe it in one word, it was madness, but good madness. I can just remember the crazy journey that we all made because, of course, as you know, the film is totally good, crazy and good mad. So we were all going through that journey ourselves. And that's why it was not manufactured. Whatever you see on screen has not been manufactured. So we were all taking our own paths, me, Sriram, the DOP, the writers. So it was really more of an organic process. So I just remember that personally it has been a journey in itself.
Sriram, the film has 5 writers. What was the germ of the idea, and can you explain really why it needed 5 writers?
See, I'll tell you, what happened is actually many years back I'd gone to Chennai for a IIT script writing seminar, and I met a lot of students there, and one of the boys came and met me and said, I'm also interested in all that. So we sort of exchanged email IDs and everything, and one day he sent me a short film, The Piano Tuner, which is there on YouTube. Many of you all may have seen it. And I just saw it in the night one day, and I just loved it. And of course, there was no idea. I just said, what would happen if if it doesn't end here? That film ends on a very tense note and a kind of a... so then I wrote to him saying, let's try and expand it. Meanwhile, I found out who's the producer, and I wrote to them. They didn't reply for a long time. And then we were trying to, anyway, sort of do our own thing. And at some point, those guys replied, said, sorry, we are not giving it to you or anything, because in terms of permission and all. And because even that director wanted to make sort of a version of it, So, but we had it was like the horse was out of the stable kind of thing. So I was like writing my own version. So that's the writer number 1, Hemant. Right. So we did something, and then in between, those guys said no and all that. So it sort of kept, then I made Badlapur after that. So in between there was a gap.
Right.
And after Badlapur, I said, I said 2 years have passed, or 3 years have passed, can you give me the rights now? They said no again, Then eventually Sanjay and I landed up in Paris. He said, at worst, they'll chuck. I mean, at least let them say no in person, you know.
Right.
And then I was even advised, you know, why did you even tell them? Because our movie actually is quite different.
Do the old Bollywood thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, somewhere, you know, I feel very terrible doing that, you know.
Thank you.
So I told them, and I think they just got they just felt we were sincere that, you know.
Yeah.
That then after that, my other Pooja, of course, is kind of co-writes with me and
Right.
Ajit. So I said, okay, let's just discuss what can happen and so on. And so the four writers they came at different stages. At some point, of course, Hemant, of course, went out of the picture because he was making his own own feature film.
Right.
So he was there in the initial part, more with the first half and all that.
Right.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun and arguments and brainstorming, and that's the kind of.
Do you wonder when you're writing whether this is going to come through? This is going to, you know, because it's an unusual idea. A lot of filmmakers say that it's important not to think of that when you're writing, because then you're censoring yourself and restricting yourself at every stage. When you're writing, are you writing for yourself, or are you writing? You know, also keeping in mind that this needs to come through, this needs to communicate. Will they, you know, I'm sorry to drop names, but I remember asking Christopher Nolan, I said, you know, you take the audience's intelligence for granted, which is very often the opposite of what a lot of other filmmakers do. And again, Andhadhun is a kind of film that you expect the audience to participate. It's not a film which you just watch. You're actually on your toes participating with the film. Were you always confident that this is something that people would just get into?
I see. I don't know about confidence, because a lot of actors, I narrated the story. Of course, what I narrated was not exactly the exact same film you saw, because the film was made a few months later. So a lot of things happened on set and so on. But many fairly, I won't take names, but many fairly big actors couldn't. They said no in nice ways and polite ways, and they couldn't get it probably. And somewhere there was this worry that maybe I was still. Why did I want to still continue? So maybe there was that fun element in it, and I said, okay, it's not a complete script, but if you don't get it with so much, then okay,
Right.
I'm fine, you know. So eventually, when Aishman I had spoken to, Tabu was already sort of cast, and I used to tell her the story, and we used to laugh like this, you know. We used to just laugh when we were talking about the movie. And then many actors said no, but somehow it was with another producer initially, and then that guy said no, without a big star. I said, I'll go with a newcomer. So I tried testing a few newcomers, but I had one requirement which that needed time, which is they had to learn the piano.
You were very clear that they
I
had
was
to do
very
that
clear
themselves.
because I've seen so many movies where
It's fake.
people, so I said, okay. So that's why and then Aishman texted me, and then I realized, oh my God, he's there right in front of my nose, you know, and he's a musician, so he knows the chords, he's a guitar, he can play the guitar and all. And he was excited, so it sort of everything fell, within half an hour of meeting him, it all fell into place.
Tabu, when you, what were you drawn to first? Was it, you know, to work with Sriram? Was it the part? Because Simi is this delicious character, but also Sriram, and I really want you to weigh in as well. Were you nervous whether she'd do it? Because it's a lot of actors, I can't think of a lot of actresses who'd immediately gravitate towards playing someone who's so amoral, who's so, greedy, driven by greed, and yet do it with just such conviction. And I mean, she's a character. I wanted her to win when she's tossing the old woman out of the. Sorry, if anyone hasn't. If you haven't seen it till now, you know that's your problem. I mean, when she's tossing the old lady out of the window, it's the most heinous thing you can do. And that's the beauty of it. And still, you're rooting for her because of the way you played. What was your instant reaction? And did you have any? Did you wonder whether she'd say yes?
You answer, then I'll.
So the first thing was I wanted to work with Sriram for a long time. And I thought, how is it that this director has never come to me? I have to work with this director. And I walked up to him at Badlapur's preview and I said, I really want to work with you. So he's like, yeah, whatever, and very...
No, for me now...
I mean, he gets little, he's not so, expressive and all that. So I said, see, I had to say what I had to say. Now I hope this really happens. And then one day I just out of the blue called him up and said, Sriram, see, if you do a film with me, don't give me all this mother role and boring role, okay?
Yeah, I remember
Sriram
that.
poor thing was only listening to my ranting
Now
all the
she
time.
wants a
I
part
want
and she's
to
also
work-
going to tell me what part to cast her in.
I want to work with you, and it's like, okay, don't give me this role. Okay, Sriram must be thinking, kya hai? So, and I said, yeah, of course I know you won't give me a boring role. Your films are like that, and that's why I wanted to work with him, because I knew that the character he'll give me will be something that I would have never done before. And one day he called after many months and said, this is the idea and all this happened on the phone and all. And I started laughing. And then, of course, then it kept developing and all that. Of course, the character, because it's really, really crazy is a much used word, I feel. But it was something that I had never done before. And the format I had never worked in before, because it was a very, very new area for me to explore also.
And
as
these are
an
big
actor.
words because you have played very complex characters.
Yeah.
You're the one actor who has, if it was a different actor saying this, you'd be like, well, you haven't played. But in your case, you have actually played very
and
complex
I
characters.
don't know what is it that made this whole experience completely different. It was really like a breaking of all that I knew. It was very challenging for me because of the format and because of the way it comes and goes, and also because I think I was trying to also understand what it is that was, so rattling about my whole experience playing this character. It was because the character, I don't think you can find a core to her.
Right.
She does not, because her core keeps changing in every scene, because I think her survival is her core at every different point. And also she is improvising as she goes.
Right.
She is improvising because as an actor, you know what's going to happen in the scene. But as a character, you don't know.
Right.
So to strike that balance between the actor and the character, where you're not supposed to know that he's going to do this, and you're supposed to keep convincing the audience that you're actually making it up. You're making up the poison, you're making up the mask, you're making up you're pushing the old lady because you've just thought about it. You're making up the whole speech at the prayer meeting, and you're making up the reaction when the police comes to you. So it was really like...
Was that new for you?
It was very new. Like, I'm getting goosebumps
Yeah,
talking about it now, because I'm really trying to also decode the whole process of this, enacting this character for me. And Sriram has seen me through this. I'm sure he's seen so many actors go through this that for him he was watching it completely, objectively, but I was actually in it. So it was really, really something else, something new that I learned about myself and the craft of acting, about characterization, about the way a film is made. It was a very, very new experience for me. Yeah.
Is the whole business of understanding a character and getting into the head of the character a very lonely process?
With this character, I could not get into her head.
Right. Because it's so shifty,
Yeah, that's why it was so difficult for me. It was actually rattling.
Right.
And that, and also the other aspect was that it's not dramatic, it's not staged, and it's not larger than life.
Right.
Because it's also real, it becomes very, very confusing,
If I can interrupt, once she asked me, am I playing the villain? I said, no. You're not the villain. You're just a person who's caught in something. You're otherwise lovely. Your husband, Anil Dhawan, is like a superb guy. There's no issue between you all. Yes, there is a little, a fling she's having on the side, but that's okay. But, but...
That's not why the husband is killed. Yeah.
And she didn't want that. That's why that whole scene where she, after all this chaos of that silent comedy, and she breaks down.
That's the most amazing scene. Do you remember the scene where actually the blind man sees the murder and watches them, more than the murder, the packing him in the... that's just, and all done silently, just absolutely...
That's Sriram's favorite scene.
It is. It's incredible.
That's
it
the nucleus of the film.
Of Stan and Ollie, and it reminds you of the good old black and white sort of cartoons. Not cartoons, the silent, almost comical, almost cartoonish, Sriram, did she say yes immediately? How long did it...
Well, funnily, she said yes immediately, but then we used to have these discussions, is she the villain? But then I said, no, it's not the villain. Why would, and the only time when she was little, oh my God, what are we asking me to do? Is like pushing that old lady, And we had an action director, and Parvez Bhai, and so, we were trying, because of course we had kept a rostrum and all, it was all very safe. So I took one of my assistants, okay, let her do it with the other girl, you know. And I asked my action, my assistant was like young girl, and she said, oh, what do I do? So the action guy saying, just pick and throw. So it was almost like that, you know.
Very clinically.
It was very difficult for me to do that. But I used to constantly talk with Sriram and used to only listen during the entire process. To be rattling. Sriram, why will she? And Sriram will, whatever.
And for me, the one thing which I really enjoyed was somewhere the character was somebody who wants to be an actress. She's sort of, you know, okay, that's her ambition. And in my head, it was like every scene she's performing because even though she's not doing it in a movie, correct. So we even thought that would be too much. We even thought before something happens and she has to react. Simi, take two, or take, live, take one kind of thing. It's almost like a clapboard. I wanted to put a sound of a clapboard. In her head, it's like,
it's
okay.
doing it,
But a lot of it developed and we kept, I think, growing with the character and my worry and craziness. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, it's so scattered. It's so like that, you know. It was a very new experience for me.
Were you ever concerned, and I ask this question sort of knowing the answer because I've seen the characters that you played, and one has seen a character like Ghazala in Haider, so one has a sense of what you'll probably say to this, but were you ever concerned that she'll come off as unlikable?
No.
And that doesn't concern you?
I don't care about it.
That's so brave. Really that's incredible.
I mean...
Because if that's a concern, then you can't do this, right?
That was... No, Sriram, I didn't...
No, I don't think that was ever...
Never, ever.
For us, it was like,
Like how to make it convincing, not false, but still have that kind of some edge to it, so that you can at least convey the design and the essence of how we want to do it.
When it's a character, and this is to both of you, when it's a character who does such horrible things, and there is a chance that she'll be unlikable, are you at least hoping that she will be, on some level, people will be able to, I don't know if relate is the right word, connect? I was rooting for her. I mean, what are you hoping that, that they will, there has to be some connection, right? There has to be, you're not going to endorse what she's doing, but what is the ambition that one hopes that an audience, the connection that an audience will make with that kind of character?
I don't know about the hope, but I think we wanted her to be enjoyable.
Yeah. Right. Yeah?
We wanted people to enjoy her, but still not lose out on anything else. कि उसको मतलब comical या ऐसा नहीं बनाना है कि सिर्फ enjoy करो. But also I want to point out that this is a lot of permutation and combination that happens. This character, this person works only probably in this whole design, in this setup, in this film, in this format, speaking these lines and interacting with these people. So you don't know that if you pick up Simi and place her in another film which is made differently, in a differently told story, I don't know if it would work. I don't know if you would, like her, dislike her, enjoy her. We don't know.
Like when her introduction scene, in my script, I had that Nigella Lawson scene, where she's kind of cooking at home and the husband decides to just film her. And she starts suddenly, becomes Nigella Lawson, kind of a... In fact, that dialogue is from, it's a Nigella Lawson recipe, that putting it in the... I said, it's so great. And I wanted, so that was there, and that her, with the kind of red chili paste hand, she's hugging him, like a little foreshadowing kind of a thing. But then, while we were discussing it, then we said, okay, in fact, it was her idea, like this whole thing of suddenly she throws the plate and like you think what's happened to her? Is she like
flipping
is she off or and then she says, oh, it was a performance in Cast Me in Nurse Radha, which is like
which is of course your own nods.
That's from Khamoshi. I don't know whether you all have seen that movie. It's a Vaida Rahman film. So and Rajesh Khanna.
Sriram, talk about Ayushmann and casting him. Were you always convinced, because today the Ayushmann that we know today, he's won a national award yesterday, he was in Badhai Ho, he's been in Article 15, was very different from the Ayushmann when you cast him. Were you always convinced he could pull it off?
See, for me, I somehow, luckily, I don't think about what did he do before, what were the numbers of that and all
Right.
that. I've liked him in Vicky Donor very much. I've liked him in Dum Lage very much. So, and funnily, I had not thought of him till, like I said, he texted me and all that. After that, I mean, I had no real issues with him. And somehow, just before we began shooting, a film of his had not worked. So there are all these, naysayers all around you in the film industry. Hey, you got to, who's going to, and all that kind of thing. Luckily, we sort of brushed all that aside, and sort of that is and then when he was doing it, I mean, he's hungry, he's enjoying it, he's practicing the piano and all that. So, I mean, it was just like, I'm very happy that he won the national award because it's something which, I mean, it deserves it, yeah.
Right. The ending, right? Should we get to it? Are you tired of answering that question?
No, but well, I don't ever answer it, but
You like to listen, right? I mean, for you, Tapu, what's the, I know, I remember when I watched it, I mean, I sort of, if you're sort of following the story, if you're kind of in it in that moment, I'm like, the accident happens, it's her eyes that he gets. But I realize I'm in the minority. That's the most obvious way of thinking. Everyone has a theory. Did you have an answer? I mean, you don't have to share it. But to your team, did you all know what the answer to this is?
See, I'll tell you. What happened is when the film was being written, I was very clear since it's beginning with a guy who's sort of pretending to be blind for a reason. It'll be great. See, we were thinking, suppose, okay, in the end, we give it closure. And he's got his eyes back. In between, he does get blind and all that. He's got his eyes back. So I had said, oh, that's too easy. I mean, I was not happy with that. And if he's blind, then you feel, oh, poor chap, what a bleak ending to a guy who's just doing something for his art, so to say. So we said, okay, let's keep it ambiguous, let's keep it a question mark, and that was a little dicey. And so in the ambiguity, what we wanted is there are 2 or 3 possible interpretations. All 3 should be valid, So there was no...
there was no one definite.
Yeah. So if this is the answer, yes, I've got people have come with some 7 or 8 other stories which I didn't know. But we did, sometimes when you're making a movie, you desire this, that I hope 2 people go to see the movie and one is saying this and the other is saying that when they come out.
Well, you got 8 times that.
So, I mean, that is like a dream come true kind of. We never expected this kind of, I mean, there are so many on YouTube, there are like, explanations and so on in different languages also.
Right.
So it's like, so that's something
do you have one that you believe or do you feel that sort of spoils it by pinning it down to one answer?
I believe that whatever you saw in the film has happened,
Right.
She
that's
actually tried to kill him.
Yeah.
And she actually died. And in the end, I feel he's still blind till the end.
So that's, some people actually have that.
Yeah,
I remember.
I feel that because
so then
maybe I want to believe
the
that.
can is just
No, the kick in the can happen. I mean, if you do it 10 times, I mean, it's going to 11 times. If there are many cans, in India, so there'll be so many cans to kick. So
Even a blind person can keep kicking.
yeah.
and the walking stick?
Well, that was, again, like I said, I mean, all these things came bit by bit. Nothing, I mean, the film was not written at one go. And,
Right.
it was like, it was getting evolved and getting better over the days we were shooting it.
Right.
We had options of climax also.
Yeah, we had lots of
Did you
options.
shoot more than one?
No, we didn't shoot them.
This is the only one.
One thing I feel very happy about. It's not that you're. But one option we had was in the end. You see, there's some in Banaras or somewhere. There is one old man who's like, and his wife was distributing something, and you see she's still there with another old guy. Kind of all these things we were discussed all this, and
We used to discuss and laugh and laugh and laugh. So we had some great conversations before we actually finished the film, and we made many options in our heads. But this is what we shot, and this is what I believe happened. Yeah.
Right. When a film evokes this kind of response, what were your, I mean, when the film was coming out, were you fairly confident? Because it's a film that took off immediately. There are some films that pick up later. This is a film that, I mean, I remember the press show and I remember everyone going, wow. I mean, it really happens at press shows where journalists sort of express quite openly how they feel about it. And immediately after the reactions were, I mean, what were your, what was the mood like just before the film came out? I mean,
See, I'll tell you, about a month or two before the release, I had actually have enough friends whom I trust who can be brutally honest with me. I used to call them and just tell them to watch it in the edit, So I used to get generally a positive reaction, but then those are friends and those are people who are cinema literate and so on, Of course, I've called, absolute, people also. And we had what is called a focus group where the girls hated the second half, They just hated it. I mean, there was like, if you see the report, it's like, it would be scary. So I said to myself, okay, be prepared for that kind of thing, And it's very possible if little bit of something had gone here and there wrong, I can imagine you writing, second half was a train wreck, and film begins well. My brother, who's also a writer, said your second half doesn't work, it's a different story and all that. I said, yeah, that's, I know, but but that's, and I've tried every other option for second half, So not every, but almost every.
Right.
So I've kind of, in my head, gone through all those possible. Then somewhere I think we've just been, we worked hard and we were lucky also.
Right. Tabu, what were you like a few days before the release?
I don't know, yeah. I was like...
Well, can I just say, I know that there are films of hers when they're coming out. There are some films, she's not in town around those times when those movies are coming out. The fact that she was in town, I think, speaks a lot. The fact that she was there to sort of embrace the feedback.
We were promoting, and then I went to Srinagar the day it released. I came after 2 days. And there only I started getting reactions and people were calling and talking about the character, this, that. And I was like, oh, really? Really, this is what I did, this is what I did. Because it's not so much about the reaction and the response. While doing the film, I'm not so worried about that.
Right.
As to, am I doing it right? Am I getting it right? And especially in Andhadhun with this whole new process and this completely different kind of characterization and approach to this character and a combination of a lot of things. I was like, am I getting it right? Am I getting my process right? Am I really able to translate this character properly, like extract its full potential or not? That's all I want to know. Like yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine, Harneet, and about the award and all that, and she's like, imagine Tabu, you are like, during the film you're worried if you're getting it right, and if you're going through it properly and see, what the film has become and all. And I was like, yeah, I never thought it would be like this kind of course the film is completely deserves the kind of cult classic status that it has got. And I feel actors are small parts of it, but like I was saying, the whole process still does not feel like completely, I don't feel that it's completely out of my system, because the process was so new to me. I feel like I need to have 4 or 5 more of these experiences so that it becomes a norm for me. It cannot become a norm for me. And now I realize, because we are like 8 or 9 months away from the film, that you have been able to assimilate what has happened and with the effect and with the response and all of that, that really there are so many things,
Correct.
Like even if one falls off the jigsaw puzzle, it might not have worked the same way, like how the others are reacting, whether it is supposed to be funny or are you trying to make it funny. I think really Andhadhun and Andhadhun has really walked that fine line during the process with all the actors, with all the technicians involved.
And somehow for me, she's doing the film and I'm like, every scene, okay, it's getting better than what I had, so I have no problem. So I used to think, Tabu's a superb actor, so I don't worry about it. Ayushmann I had to worry because he's playing blind, he's really blind, he's playing really blind and all that. So I used to focus more on him.
Correct.
And she used to feel perhaps, ignored, I don't, there's no direction.
Left to herself, left to her devices.
Just do it.
Because I felt my character so complicated.
Right. Well, but when you hire Tabu, you kind of,
she used to tell me, Ari, you're writing, this dialogue is in English. I said, yeah, say something in Hindi, na. I mean, go to the medical shop. So she used to get really,
That's how we used to get her dialogue. She comes and says, go away from here. I said, okay, is this a real dialogue? No. You have to say it in Hindi. I said, okay, so I'm translating also.
Not translating, she's kind of interpret, because see, if I read Jao medical shop, it's like, why am I putting these simple words? It's not like Umrao Jaz,
She has to own it and make it her, right.
That's how organic it was.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite scene, Tabu? Do you have a favorite moment in the film? A favorite scene that you either, it took a lot to crack how you do it, or one that came very naturally to you?
I think the whole murder scene and how I am going to react to it was my thing. I wanted that clarity. I think we needed to underline the character as to how she would react to her husband's death.
Right.
You know,
that was
so-
the toughest scene. You want to continue?
No, no.
No, that was the toughest scene because for me that was the nucleus of the film,
Yeah.
And so what happened is I'll just a minute about the process. So initially the thought was to take a known piece, and then we do it. Then I said this guy is a pianist. Okay, he can play a recorded piece also. I mean, which has already been so something like what we did with Beethoven or
Right, right.
Then I said, okay, for me this was the scene. So my main worry was that, in that 3.5 minutes when he's playing, all the things that have to happen. And so I told my assistants, a bunch of them, okay, one of you get into the suitcase, one of you is that person, one of you. And I used to tell them, it's almost like a student's, working. So I said, there's a room upstairs where you can go and rehearse and just shoot this and show me in the evenings. Whatever.
Right.
Each of you all take the camera and do it. And I used to find it damn funny. Okay, something else. So I used to get a lot of ideas from things from that. Then I thought, okay, I have to rehearse with Tabu and Manav, Then last moment maybe because the time was less or whatever, then somebody suddenly struck me, we should not rehearse this. It should be like,
What they don't do
they
in the
also.
moment, sort of.
So I even asked her, do you want to see those? She said, no, don't show me all that, because, so it was like, but that was that was my nucleus main scene.
Right.
But the other scene, shot rather, not scene, which I love, which is not with her actually, is with Anil Dhawan, where he's playing an actor of the 70s. And so I want, somehow this vague thing I had that you introduce the man like a hero, but you don't see his face. Right. And then you see his face young, which is like 40 years back. And then that same shot becomes, you see the old guy. I think a lot of us do that. I mean, a lot of maybe actors, like maybe sitting and watching the old films and, kind of. So for me, and I needed it to be in one shot. That was my whole thing, the young to old.
Right.
So when that happened, initially we couldn't get it, and then we shot that again. There's one scene we reshot, and because he said, okay, not getting the exact moment. When we got that, I felt it was like a Wim Wenders shot or something like that,
We have two very special people in the house, and I want to invite them now. We have two of your producers. We have Sanjay Routray, who was your partner, your producing partner, and we have Ajit Andhare of Viacom 18, who was also one of the co-producers. If we can please have them come up on stage, join us. Ajit, that's Sanjay. Sanjay, you were on the process very early on. I mean, I would imagine that you were around when Sriram was. I mean, you were part of the whole watching the film being written and sort of crystallizing. What was your response to this as a producer? Are you thinking differently, or is your job to just completely support the director's vision? I asked them in the beginning whether I asked Sriram whether he was concerned whether it would translate, whether it would convey. But as a writer and as a filmmaker, sometimes you have the liberty to think that's not I will write. It's the romance of I will write and it'll find a way. But as a producer, do you have to keep those things in mind?
So this was our second film together. We had done Johnny Gaddar earlier. I basically believe that as a producer, you have to give a strong, good platform to your director and actors where they can perform without any fear and do their work. So that's what, as a producer, we strive for. And I think that gives the comfort. And Sriram and me, we have been friends for around 20 years. So there are a lot of things which we understand, without, speaking it out. And, so I know how he works, what he wants, and he knows.
To create that comfortable sort of environment.
Yeah.
Right. Ajit, how did you empower the vision and being the studio, being the bankrollers in a sense of someone else's dream? What do you feel like you were able to? In what way were you able to empower this vision and enable it and perhaps even strengthen it and give it the platform that it needed?
Yeah. So I think as a studio for us, what becomes important is to be really sharing that vision or the dream as to what the filmmaker is trying to do. And we were working with Sriram and Sanjay, and there were multiple subjects. And I remember there was one book which had come, and I was told that Sriram wants to adapt this. And I read it cover to cover, and I couldn't sort of quite understand as to what must be exciting him about this book. And I was very thankful when they didn't push that, and you know, the second story was narrated. And when this narration happened, Sriram also has a very unusual way of narrating. So first of all, when we normally read scripts, these are full screenplay dialogues, everything, like Tabu was also alluding to it. So you can really experience a full film as it's been written. And Sanjay told me that, you know, Sriram doesn't do it that way. He does this 30, 40 pages of, so I was told that, okay, there is a different kind of screenplay that's going to come. So when I read it initially, and I said it's better that it gets narrated. Right. So Sriram has this very unusual roller coaster way of narrating, you know, almost sort of bumbling. But what I remember distinctly is that it was pitch perfect till the film reaches the organ mafia. And I think I remember telling him that it's so good till that point that after that, from a writing point of view, it's got many directions it can go into, and we just have to somehow do at writing what the film has managed to do at the initial stage. And the initial bit was so good that we almost felt that I felt that we owed it to ourselves to get it so good that it does justice to what this film is setting out to do. And that's what I think is the most enjoyable part about this film. And you've heard this word organic many times. He was so open, and I found that most bizarre because creative people are very possessive, but he was actually so open that I was almost scared that is he really listening or simply giving me an ear, you know. So he said, okay, what else can be done? So we put in our creative team. They started, you know, jumping in with ideas. But the good thing is that none of those ideas really quite stacked up. And I remember having spoken to some of the writers, Pooja also mentioned it, that we were not satisfied with whatever else we could come up with. And therefore, I think gradually what we walked into became the best possible choice that the film had to sort of go into. But I have to say that because I see the film in a lot of early stages, you know, if you see that nucleus scene without the music, I was very scared because I said, look, this film is supposed to be, this scene is supposed to be very tense, and this is looking almost Chaplin-esque. So what is really happening here, you know? And you guys you have to see it without music. It's totally flat. And you're saying, look, this film stands on this scene. And it's actually becoming a little funny. But then I found that actually I'm enjoying, and to me, from writing to how the film evolved on celluloid, was a journey from it being thrill, dark, and tight subject to actually a lot more irreverent, fun, and enjoyable subject, you know. And I think that is a quality which Sriram, the director, added to the film, which Sriram, the writer, and all of them possibly left it at some other level when they were writing it.
Right. Sriram, is that always the challenge, you know, translating what is in the head and being able to communicate what you already know you're going to do with it, but it's not necessarily on paper?
See, it's not true that, you know, before we began shooting, I had everything like, you know, like a transcript of the script. I didn't have that. I mean, it was 70-80% there, and about 10-20% you know that you're going to get better stuff, and maybe you'll here and there lose stuff, you know. Yeah. So I didn't have this kind of worry, and I mean, like, but I knew one thing: the second half, everybody, I mean, my brother, then Ajit, many people said second half is changing, the film is different, and all that. But since I had gone through many options, so I said, okay, more the merrier, come and narrate, you know, maybe one of them has got a better idea or whatever, you know. So I used to be very, I mean, that way, I mean, I wouldn't say patient or democratic, it's just that, I mean, you're getting an audience feedback right now here and in the here. Right. I remember even that line, what is life, it depends on the river. It came while we were in the final stage of editing. Suddenly I remembered in Ren and Martin in school, we used to have a chapter on puns. And this was the main pun there, you know, in that. So I said, hey, this is a great pun to put here in our movie, you know. And I remember him telling me, oh, that line solves it. So I said, oh, I didn't know that, you know, it's going to... So about a month or two before the shoot, we put that line as because initially I had a line which I liked, John Lennon line, you know, like living is easy with eyes closed, a line from Strawberry Fields. Right. So I said, okay, that's a great line, but it's a little kind of it's a good musical kind of, it's got that homage and all that. But this line sort of, you know, helped us a lot. So these things, I don't know, sometimes they happen.
Tabu, for an actor, every film is a different experience. And does this, I mean, you said you enjoyed this, the process of this film, which is unlike other films. In some ways, does it spoil you as an actor because the next time will be different? And you've had next times after that, you've made other films after that. Or do you, or is an actor just expected to be sort of malleable and flexible and embrace and kind of,
It's
adapt
good
to
if you are. It's good if you are,
Right.
because and every process in every film could be different, could be similar to your previous experience, but I think every process with every film, with every director, with every format is going to be different.
Right.
And I think automatically wo ho jata hai ke you tune yourself to that process depending on the format of the film. Like
Right.
Andhadhun stands apart because it's a completely a different world.
Right.
Na? These things can happen
Happen
only
only
in
to
this
these people
world,
in
to
this
these
world.
characters, in the way this film is made and this story is told.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sriram, you've spoken about how Ayushmann was actually nervous about the open ending, and that he was like, let's have a firm ending. To the two of you as producers, I mean, is that again, are these things that producers are more concerned about? And it's a gambit that paid off, but was there a lot of discussion on this? Trying to convince him, no, there needs to be more clarity. You hear it all the time, right? The audience needs to be spoon-fed. The audience needs to be told very definitively. Of course, all that's changed. We're living in times when you can take the audience's intelligence for granted. But was that a discussion?
Of course, there was a lot of discussion, but I think to me the discussion was more on what to do in the second half, not so much the ending. Right. In fact, to me, the ending did a very, very important thing. See, in this film, if you see, usually you will have a hero who's given some kind of a heroic, task or character or power. Here, Ayushmann's character was very he's just bumbling about. And it's actually the credit of that rabbit who came at the right time and bumped her car. Otherwise, what is the hero doing? So one of the worries I had was that is our hero got sufficiently vested with the agency of leading the film, Otherwise, it's looking like a bit of a labyrinth. And that's why the name Andhadhun also fitted very well. But what the last scene does is, I think it fulfills that need in you as an audience, that okay, so he was the smart one after all, and I think that's the very big reason why people have enjoyed the film. Right. So yes, there were lots of discussions, but I think to me it was more about the second half writing rather than the end. Of course, the end was open-ended, but as I said, there was no other good way to close it. We've discussed it several times. We virtually simulated various ends, and in fact, I was telling Sriram we should have shot all of that. We could have given Netflix, and made more money out of it, what alternative endings and all of that. But I think we just as he stumbled upon the can, we kind of stumbled upon what possibly was the best way.
Also because I think there was no intent from Sriram's side, the writer's side, or anybody to have like a hero or a heroine or the villain,
in the way that we know them.
Yeah, everybody is doing what they think is right for them at that given point of time. We are not setting out to make villains and heroes, and definitely not caricatures out of people and out of characters.
I mean, how many of us are heroes here? I mean, we don't know, no? I mean, a certain situation may make you a hero, or our man actually is, I would define him as he's a good musician, trying to be better, and he's a bit of a coward. Right. He could have gone to another police station, and he could have done all that. So, he's a bit of a coward, he's more self-preservation and all that. And the last thing also, he's actually been spectacularly lucky, like, I was also thinking to myself, like, suppose there's a dog, shady dog who tells me 2 days back is trying to harvest my kidneys. Today is telling me I'll give you money, I'll do all this. Would I believe him when I'm blind? I don't even know what he looks like. Others at least I know what they look like because I've seen them once. This guy, he doesn't know them. He's met them after he's gone blind. So I don't think he was a hero at all. But of course, he's a leading man. So we confuse leading man with hero.
Right.
So on the end of the film, Shriram had narrated first time, I think before Badlapur, the end that time was always like, it was till the point where the waiter comes and gives him the walking stick. Right. Okay, and so it was always there, he was very clear, it has to be the ambiguous, the end, whether he's blind or he's not blind. So that never changed. That was always there, and I think when he narrated to all of us in the office, I think we were 3-4 of us and we had all loved it.
Right.
You know,
But that time it was even more dangerous because I thought, okay, just putting the rabbits, just that lady coming, giving him the stick, and you see this blind man going and the rabbit head bobbing up and down, which is how the movie begins. A
Right,
rabbit
it's
going up
bobbing
and
in
down.
the field,
so
yeah.
but they said, it is too subtle, maybe you should do a can kick, you know. So I was like, then the one little trivia is, the last shot, the can kick is the last shot we shot also. We were
in
in
the film,
Poland,
right.
and I remember the light is going, and my cameraman was Rajeev Ravi for that particular sequence. And I took 7, 8, 10. We said, should it be flamboyant, kicking to the whacking the can, or should it be subtle and all that? And I was shooting it, and then after about 7, 8 takes, Rajeev told me, "Aur kuch milne nahi wala hai, you know, this is all you're going to get, you know." So I said, should we say, okay, movie pack up, you know, it's a big thing to say when the movie is over. Okay, we can go and have a party or whatever. So I'm like, okay, maybe I've taken God knows what we have done. So that fear
so
is there.
when they were shooting that, you know, I was not with them for that shoot, and I was in Spain, and Rajiv called me after the shoot, and he said कि देख हम तो अपनी तरफ से पूरा ट्राई किए हैं, बट हो सकता है तेरे को थोड़ा सीजी करना पड़ेगा इसमें, तो पैसे रखना.
But even after you locked the film, what took some time was locking the title, wasn't it? You all went through many options.
We were asking everyone for suggestions.
I remember coming to the office once and seeing a bunch of options, thinking, "Oh, that's nice, that's nice."
Kishore Kumar was.
Yeah,
the-
please, this
Kishore
everyone would
Kumar.
love to know what were some of the options.
Actually, Ayushman's name was originally Kishore because he's a Kishore Kumar fan. So we had Kishore Kumar. Kishore Kumar.
Nice.
That was one. We loved it. Then I thought maybe Kishore Kumar is too iconic for us to have,
To fool around with, right.
fool. So I said no. The other one I liked and very much was Mud Mud Ke Na Dekh, which is a Raj Kapoor, Sri 420's.
Which you've used in the film as well.
I've used because we might that time we didn't have a title, so at least it's there on some kind of thing. But Mud Mud Ke Na Dekh, I actually, Sri 420's also, this guy also is the Sri 420's, you know, our man, Ayushman. So I thought it would be good, but. But somehow, I thought, okay, let's try and buy the rights for the song and redo it. But that's a great song with Nadir. I hope you all see that movie. It's a super movie, black and white. But
You had piano teacher, the piano.
that was my English working title, Shoot the Piano Player, which it was like, okay, we are making a Hindi movie, so let's try for a Hindi title, Otherwise, Shoot the Piano Player is a kind of a homage to Francois Truffaut, his movie and so on, So
Now you feel that there couldn't have been any other title.
It just
except
feels
Andhadhun.
like this is just the ideal one.
Yeah,
How did you all chance upon this one?
this was actually there in some lot, and I remember I always tell my assistants and all, anybody who gives me the right, the title we choose will get some shirt or a sari or something like that, something slightly expensive kind of a thing.
So I always get big ribbing from my marketing team because they feel Sriram has just forgotten this, that actually it was the team who came up with this title. So, but anyway, that I leave it to Sriram to decide who came up with it. But what we did with it is because there were so many titles, I remember there was a lot of research done on these titles, and Andhadhun clearly won and stuck out in that research. Right. And Andhadhun itself is a word play.
There's no such word, It's Andhadhun actually.
So it really doesn't make any sort of normal sense. But it got picked up, it scored really well, and we said, okay, then we'll go with that.
But initially, the marketing team was sold on Kala Chashma.
Kala Chashma, yes.
Oh,
Yes, Kala Chashma. Yes,
Which I sort of refused. There's a song already, and that Bar was not done well. Why am I getting into that zone?
No, there were a lot of titles, like some writer friends of ours, they came, like he said, Andha hai kya?
Andha hai kya?
Andha hai kya? Correct.
Then my mom told me, I've been asking her, what do you think of this? She said, why are you putting a negative thing in the title? Andha. She didn't want the word Andha in the title, It'll just put people off and sort of, God knows, this is like over a year we have been doing this, so it's not
How long before the film release we got the title? I think just a month.
month
Just-
before. Yeah.
When we had to sort of...
When we had
When
to,
you had no
like,
time
last
left.
minute.
Now you need to have a title.
And there was a pulpy title also, Saj or Sajish.
Because
Sazish.
that is a 70s kind of title, like
Correct,
Saz or Sazish.
Right, yeah.
Then I remember...
Nurse Radha Part 2.
Nurse Radha. I remember Kausal Munir, she was supposed to do the lyrics at the time. She said, my daughter will never see a movie called Saz or Sazish.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit,
Done.
it's
Okay.
70s times, so stay in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we're
we
going
made
to
a
open it
poster
out
of
to
that.
the audience for questions. If you have questions, raise your hand. But listen, they need to. I'm going to be like very militant. They need to be questions. We don't want we don't want your comments. We don't have a lot of time. So a question, not how great they are. We know how great they are. So if we could give a mic to the gentleman at the back there first, and they need to be short questions to one person.
ये श्री राम जी से आप क्वेश्चन है why did you decide to use Anil Dhawan, like out of so many actors we have 70s, and why Anil Dhawan?
Well, because Anil Dhawan, there are many reasons. One main reason was that he had some beautiful songs, which all of them sort of almost fitted in. And when I met him, he's the only guy I met actually for this, and Ye Jeevan Hai I used, Teri Galiyon Mein, so it's like almost written for our movie, it's like that, So, and plus, I've worked with Barun, I know David Dhawan, his brother, and so on. So it was a kind of, I've met Anil Dhawan before. And I remember 3 years back, I told him, so there's one role I'll come to you for, And that time we were not sure, but yeah, Anil Dhawan was, I love him. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the gentleman in the front row.
Good afternoon, the whole team. Sir, आपके लिए question है एक. So I do make short films as well. I want to learn what do you actually tell to your actors when you're actually giving a particular sequence or a scene.
No, we all, what do I tell means I don't understand.
So it's putting up in a situation that this is a scene, you have to do that, whatever you think, do in that way. Or you, what is that?
No, normally when we shoot, my editor is also my associate director, so she's also there on the set usually. So we have we all know what we are doing. And once the schedule is done, I leave her alone for a few days so that she puts it together in her own way. She is completely free to do it. And then when I see it, sometimes you say, okay, this is superb. Like my editor, for example, has got a terrific ear for music, and she's got and sometimes you feel, okay, this is sagging, maybe. And so it's a very collaborative kind of thing. And editing is one place where you rewrite the film, actually, So
Pretty much blocking a scene and then putting a rehearsal around.
Yeah. Like any other filmmaker.
Okay, the lady behind him.
Hi, my question is to the entire panel. So I just read that Andhadhun became the third highest grossing Bollywood film in China. And it's different from, say, the Amir Khan films and the Salman Khan films. It's a dark comedy. What do you think explains the popularity of Andhadhun in China?
So, should I take a shot at it?
No,
So incidentally, we had other films lined up for a release in China, one of them, a big one called Padmavat. But what we observed is there was a Spanish film, which was a dark thriller, Invisible Guest, which got made as Badla. And that did a very strong box office. So somehow, I don't know, it gave us confidence that that multiplex audience, which has a certain sort of intelligent, curious kind of sensibility, and if they are watching a Spanish film, which is a thriller, then I thought there is a lot that our film can sort of offer. And that's when we tried to sort of push, and China is like an airstrip where you sort of put all your planes. Thankfully, the one that flew was Andhadhun. But I think the real answer is it's the urban multiplex audience, because some of the comments that I got in terms of the audience reaction was, oh, Bollywood can make intelligent cinema. That's what, it's rare and those kind of things. So it's very on point on the film, the fact that it was an unusual film. And I think if you've got an urban multiplex audience anywhere, I think it'll respond similarly to it.
You wanted to say something, Shreya?
No, yeah, that's right. But I'm saying sometimes it's a visual medium, and I think especially in a genre like this, which is I remember my VFX people, they were from Greece, and so they had done the rabbit. The rabbit was a VFX rabbit, obviously. So when they saw the film, I showed them the kind of the rough cut kind of thing. There was no subtitles. They don't know Hindi at all. Hindi is Greek to them, or rather, whatever. I was trying to be funny. But they got the first half beautifully, So I realized there is some kind of I'm a big student of Hitchcock, and he has this thing of, if you put the sound off, you should be able to understand the movie, and stuff like that, So I think that's one of the vital things,
That it travels.
Hi, my name is Rohit. We are from Radio Mastana, Australia. Tabu Ji is my favorite actress of all time. I've grown up watching Tabu Ji.
Thank you so much.
And we belong from the Fiji community. Have you got any plans of visiting our beautiful paradise, Fiji?
Have I, sorry?
Do you have any plans to visit the beautiful paradise, Fiji?
I would love to. Are you inviting me?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Please invite me, send me many tickets.
The lady at the back who had a hand up.
Welcome to Australia. A beautiful movie. We all enjoyed it. And congratulations. My question is that, as you said that this was an organic process making the movie, I just want to ask, do we look forward to a sequel to it? And if it continues, do you think you still have some creative ideas left in your mind to continue Ayushman's and Tabu's character particularly? Or you think you have exhausted the creativity in that vein and you will give it a different turn?
No. Creativity is limitless as long as you want to. But I think if you ask the producers, they would love a sequel. But as a director, I don't think. I don't think, because the movie has one beautiful line, "Kuch cheezein adhuri hone se puri hote," So it should be left there, And anything we do is like for the money.
So I would like to answer this question. In our earlier film which we had done together, Johnny Gadda, there was a dialogue. जब कोई चीज बहुत अच्छी बन जाती है ना तो उसको उंगली नहीं करना चाहिए.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, the Andhadhun team. Tabu, a massive fan. Sriram Raghavan, a massive fan. Rajeev Masand, a massive fan. Anyways, moving on. Sriram, and this question is going out to you and Tabu at the same time. While writing the character of Simi, Tabu, was Tabu your first choice? Or
yes. There's no, you don't have to repeat.
And
was there a plan B in case she said no?
Well, no, it didn't happen, but yeah, there was that, so I had 2-3 other names, but I said, I don't want to give those names, but...
Please don't give out those names.
So, but my thing was, I love her work and I love her in the sense of the character she's played and all that. So I was very, very sure that she has to do it, And of course, now the movie is a success, so we can all say this, But I had no other person in mind.
So, I can tell this because I was involved with the film, from day one. When it was, Sriram was very clear. If Tabu would have said no, he would have shelved the film.
No, I wouldn't have shelved it. I wouldn't have shelved it.
Not at all.
That's a producer dialogue. I wouldn't have shelved it, but it would not have been the same movie.
No, but now that he has spilled the beans, let me add.
No!
Let me add. No, the thing is, I actually set up a narration, and he knows that, with another possible candidate.
Okay.
And the narration was fixed. And this gentleman was so convinced that Tabu has to play this role, he never showed up to that narration.
Wow, Sriram!
I'll take it a little further, and Sriram said, okay, if you all are so keen on the other actors, let me think of a subject where she shoot.
Yeah.
Not this one.
That's quite Thank you, Sriram.
Wow. So now this question is flying out to Tabu. How awesome was it playing the character Simi with the twists and turns?
It was awesome. It was crazy. It was life-changing for me. It was internally path-breaking. I know path-breaking is a much used word nowadays. But for me, personally, it was really path-breaking. It was educative, this whole experience and working with Sriram. I still do not know how everything, tied itself together. But I just want to now, have submitted myself to the fact that it was a completely new experience for me, which broke and changed many of my own notions, understanding, format, and just brought out something else from me.
And I'm not a heavy guy, it's just that we had a terrific team and everybody has contributed beautifully.
And the Australian jury, and Rajeev knows, they all described Tabu's performance as delicious.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to put
That's because of the crab meat.
She makes bad look very good. The lady in the front row.
This question's for Tabu, ma'am. When you, after doing this film, was it hard to transition into other roles? Like, for example, for your latest movie, De Pyar De, was it hard for you to transition going into that role, or what you had, like you said, it was educative, what you had learnt, were you able to apply it in your other films?
I'm sure at some level it gets applied. Of course, De Pyar De is a completely different film. I could not have, taken this character and tried to replicate any part of it. It's the process which was very new to me. But I was shooting Golmaal, Andhadhun and De Pyar De almost simultaneously. So, yeah, so.
Okay, the gentleman in the back.
Thank you, Tabu. My question to you is, you have been, you probably would be some of the, probably one of the, no, sorry, I'm a huge fan, so I'm really nervous standing in front of you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity again. I'm Rajeev sir. You gave me the opportunity as well last year when Rani came. So my question to you is that you are one of the few actresses who portray some of the most intense and complex characters on screen. Does some of your characters subconsciously become part of your personality? Do they sort of like leave their own traits and characters in your
I'm sure they
personality?
do. I did not know the answer to this till now. I would think that it's a very separate process and you just leave everything on set and you come back. But of course, it's a bodily process, you know, what you're going through when you're playing a character. And it's not possible that the emotions and the journey you have made because of this character is going to exit your system so easily. So yes, it becomes a part of your imprint, I think.
Thank you.
I think we have time for a few more questions. Okay, the gentleman at the back first.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zia. I'm from Afghanistan. And this is my first time being in this Indian Film Festival. This gentleman said he's nervous. I'm more than nervous than you. So I have been always interested in filmmaking. And obviously, I don't have any question at the moment. But seeing you all inspires me. And also, Tabu, I'm one of your biggest fan. Always been watching your movies. And the latest one, obviously, Andhadhun, amazing performance, amazing. I cannot describe how you guys made the film, but the way you made it, the acting, all the skills and everything, amazing, amazing. I would love to one day come to India and obviously, you know, be part of this. It's a big dream, obviously, just to have that experience. As I said, I don't have any question, but being here in this room, amazing experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The gentleman in the red in front of him.
And question to Sriram. Is it true that you wanted to launch the trailer with just sound first and no video? And how did this idea come to your mind? And
No. That was, I mean, my thing was simply very, you know, the common sense thing is it's a blind man's story. So I thought just, you know, you just hear things and sounds and, you know, terrifying sounds and dialogue and all that, but you don't see anything. But then it was shot down by a whole lot of people. So
one more question. Also,
we can still release it, Sriram.
Is it true that Aishman was given a special kind of glass which literally made him 80 to 90% blind and then he shot
that's true because it's not the regular contact lens, it's actually a big lens because not that we, I mean, in a sense, that was the kind of thing which suited and looked right on screen, but then he was actually 80-90% blind because of that. And we used to, I mean, I remember on those days, somebody has to take him from this place to that place and he can't, you know, we don't trust him to climbing stairs and all that, you know, so. Yeah.
Okay, maybe two more questions. One from the lady in the front row.
Yeah, Tabu, I need to ask this. What is your secret of being so good looking and fit? I need to ask this before you leave. So you're one of my favorite actors.
Thank you so much. I don't know what the secret is.
We all women actually curious to know.
Take my number.
I want to take you to Sydney actually with me.
Next time for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, and the lady in the front row.
Hi, Tabu ma'am. I'm a big fan. Just wanted to know that actors usually learn a lot for their parts. They do a lot of research. What did you have to unlearn to play this part? As we've heard, unlearning is a massive journey of...
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't pinpoint it and describe it as unlearning. I don't know how these words are really used and all that technically. But I'm sure when you're doing something new, you might unlearn something, you know, and you don't necessarily need to unlearn either, you know. You could assimilate what you have learned and also used it as a part of this process.
Yeah.
But I don't so much, stress on unlearning things.
Right.
If you need to, then it's a different thing, but I don't think you need.
because this character is at the end of the spectrum of humanity. She does a lot of wrong things, quote unquote. Where do you pull that research from? Because it's not an everyday thing. For example, say Ayushman's character was playing visually impaired, and he. Yep.
I don't know if you can research parts of a human mind.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, just to the first thing we shot with her was the scene where she comes to Ayushman's house in the first half, you know. So, and the door is closed, there's a doorbell, Ayushman opens the door and she's there. So I can imagine how tough it is from an actor's point of view when, you know, of course there's a story and script and everything, but to sort of get that point right, you know, it's like, it's quite difficult. It's impossible to explain to others, even to yourself sometimes, you know, so I don't know.
I don't know, really.
But thank you for making an incredible film. Thank you. It really is a film I feel like we're going to be talking about for a long time, right?
And that's the best thing that has happened.
That really
out
is,
of
you know.
this.
I mean,
Really,
there are great films, and you know, you talk about them, and then
It's the first time in my career.
I don't think that's true, but
the conversation about
is continuing,
and the theories,
right,
you know, surrounding it, and the layers that are being discovered. I mean, you know, still part of conversation.
So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Vijay Anand, and Jewel Thief is one of my ultimate favorite films, and all along I you know, one day I should get a story to that. One day I should get a story to that. So while we were making this also, I'm thinking of that. So you have no idea what you're doing. You know?
Right. But it turned out to be such a wonderful film. Thank you for giving us this film that we love and that is being now celebrated very fittingly. Thank you, and looking forward to lots more. Perhaps who knows, right? Who knows about the about sequels, and who knows about what, you know? I mean, who knows? Bizarre theories. I mean,
if the sequel, remember, my name is not there, then it's up to y'all.
He's quickly washing his hands off. Thank you.
I'm just joking.
Thank you.